Welcome back. This is The Sit Down, and I'm here with Kamau Bell, host of United Shades of America on CNN, a close friend,
There we go.
an incredible comedian.
There we go.
How are you, sir?
I'm incredible.
Yeah, you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm not incredible. I'm fine.
Season 4.
I know.
Did you know the show was going to last? But let me put it a different way.
Thank you.
How come you didn't solve all of America's problems in the first season?
That actually is sort of the thing I know it's hard to bring up. Cause we were like, I feel like we keep addressing all these problems, but they can still be problems. Maybe the show's not that good. I hope nobody notices, but thanks for exposing me.
No, but you're not bridging the gap. No, but seriously, how does it feel to be going into season 4?
I mean, I know that I'm in the TV Hall of Fame for having 4 seasons of a TV show. Like, I feel like that's a big deal. A lot of people work in the industry are like 4 seasons, so. And I'm happy that I think the work's getting better, so I'm happy that we're evolving. Every season I try to push it, and this season I know we've pushed it further than we have in previous years. So,
What were some of the things that you just felt like you had to talk about this season?
Everywhere I go, airports, coffee shops. I'm liked by lots of people, diverse group of people, but specifically white people ask me like, "What can I do? What can I do? It's so terrible. How can I help? How can I don't know. I voted, but that didn't do it. What can I do?
Alleviate me. Alleviate me.
Do I retweet you more? I voted, I retweet. What can I do? And so there's an episode we have this season called Not All White People, about white people doing real boots on the ground activism. One of those groups is the Redneck Revolt. It's in the Tacoma. They call themselves the John Brown Gun Club.
Okay.
Google John Brown, white people who want to know what they can do. Because John Brown's a white guy who's like, you need to go help and get guns. And so this is John Brown Gun Club in Tacoma, in Seattle, is a group of white people who are also liberals and Second Amendment gun advocates. And so they use their guns to stand up against like neo-Nazis and the alt-right at rallies. And they protect the Black Lives Matter rally because Black Lives Matter activists can't carry guns. Legally we say, realistically, no. So these are white people who are like, I can use my Second Amendment rights to protect black people and brown people when they're at rallies and protests. So
right.
That's what you can do, white people. Kamau Bell says, get your guns.
Right. There it is. We're going to turn that into a GIF, and we're going to put it out there totally out of context.
Quoting Jim Morrison.
Let me say that you just stepped on my next question, which was going to be, what can I do? No. See, but you talk to a lot of groups. I mean, you've just spoken with the KKK.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a moment where you're just like, fuck these people? Like, why am I interested in bridging this gap?
I mean, I don't think I'm really interested in bridging the gap. I think if it was bridging the gap would be if I went to meet with the KKK by myself with no cameras. I'm interested in showing America what America looks like up close. So I'm interested in what the viewer experience is, not in whether or not this Klan member is like, you know what, I've thought about it in the last 2 hours we've talked. I like black people, so that's a ridiculous thing to do. That's like a talk show from the 90s.
Uh-huh.
So for me, it's like, I'm not really interested in bridging the gap. I'm interested in like the audience because there's 2 different audiences watching the show. People who are like, of course the Klan exists. That's black people. But every episode has like 2 different audiences. People who know the thing I'm talking about and people who are like, I never knew about any of this. So for me, I'm interested in supporting the people who know it and feel like they have something they can use to go, see, I told you. And then also people who didn't know that they're more #woke.
Is that something you thought about a lot when you said that? And you're like, how do I make this not like a 90s talk show? How do I make this 3-dimensional instead of 1-dimensional?
No, because I mean, I was basing this on the model of Anthony Bourdain. So for me, it was like, I know I don't do it the way he does it, but when I got to CNN and they said, would you like to do this show? And he already had his show. I wasn't even thinking about bridging the gap or whatever. It was just like, I want to make a show that is about culture and race, the way he has a show that's about food, but also culture and race. And the inroads to me is like, I'm a comedian. His inroads is he's a chef. So to me, it's like, that part of it was sort of like what I wasn't thinking about that as much. It wasn't about like, people sometimes think I'm some sort of like some sort of political science professor who's like, how do I get the message out? And I'm not. I'm a college dropout who wanted to be a comedian and ended up with a job at CNN. So it's not as exciting as you.
That ended up with you don't have like a lot of algorithms.
No, it's like you can't really follow my path to this. It's not really easily laid out. It's just I grew up in a house where we talked about race and racism all the time. So that's kind of like the family business is sort of thinking about these things and figuring them out. And then as a comedian, I just sort of got pulled into doing the thing that I saw my mom doing,
That's incredible. Well, I mean, just speak a little bit more on that. What did your mom do?
My mom is like she's an academic, but an academic who dropped out of her PhD program at Stanford because at the time they wouldn't give her a PhD in African-American literature because they didn't think that was a thing in the early 70s.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So she is like a self-made person. Like in the 80s, she sold books called Famous Black Quotations because there were no compendiums of books of African-American quotations. There are now, literally based on her example. Like Henry Louis Gates had one back in the day. And, like people I regularly hear from people who have this little blue book. And so, like, my mom was like, this the Marcus Garvey quote, up, you mighty race. Like, it's just sort of like, she was like, I've tried to do it the way these white people told me to do it. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it my own way. So that was my example.
So you are very much your mother's son.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, so you go...
My dad's in there, too. I don't want my dad to be like, hey! But yeah.
I wasn't included enough. You have these conversations, and they're pretty incredible. You're obviously very quick on your feet. You're very smart. Do you ever, though, nobody bats 1,000. Do you ever feel like you remember the thing you wish you had said after the cameras had stopped? Do you ever have a shower argument when you go home?
Every single time.
Really?
There's always something you're like, I should have gone back. Why didn't I can't believe. That's just part. I think the reason why a lot of comedians do comedy is because the thing about comedy, you can say the things that you didn't think to say in the moment. And you can then sort of say, and that's what I said. But in this situation, I can't go. I'm not really working on this the same way. But because we have like VO and packages, sometimes you're able to get those points back in through those other things.
Through those others. You do find yourself kind of following up on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. No, people will come after me and go, how come you didn't ask? And I'm like, you're right. And they're like, oh, I want to yell more. Okay, but I agree that I messed that up. I thought we were going to fight. No, I have 3 kids and too many jobs to fight with people on Twitter about bullshit, especially when I agree with them. Okay, I'll follow you.
Yeah, here's a hug.
Yeah.
But you tweet a lot. You do find the time.
I do find the time.
Do you have a philosophy towards, like, do you ever delete your tweets? Do you ever feel like you got...
I only delete tweets if I, like serious typos. And if there's things where it's like, I'm not really a big tweet deleter. I mean, I sometimes I think about deleting all of them just because it just seems like, why are we, maybe there shouldn't be a permanent record of sandwiches I had 4 years ago. And also just think, I'm sure my opinions have evolved. All of us who've been on Twitter for the expense of Twitter, if at some point I get nominated for the Supreme Court, there's certainly a tweet that will be like, how could you say this when he said this about that? So I think because in the early days of Twitter, it was like the old West. Like you could kill people. It was just like
there were no rules.
It was a $25 fine for killing a guy. But like now it's like not that way. So I feel like sometimes when they pull up people's tweets from like pre-2012, I'm like, that's kind of...
It's a little...
We were all told there were no rules back then.
Yeah. I hear you 100%. I wanted to ask you one last question. You did Finding Kamau. Right? You went into your ancestry, did the DNA test.
Yeah.
I got to ask, because, we're friends, and you're a very smart man. And now people are there. That DNA stuff is maybe being handed over to police. There's all sorts of stuff there. Do you have any feelings about that? Do you have regrets?
As a black man in America, I feel like I'm always being surveilled. And I'm always being looked at and looked through. And so sometimes it's like, I'm going to cut this deal because there is information I can get from this that my parents were super excited to find out that they would not have had otherwise. It's like people like, your phone is my phone is a surveillance device, but it also comes with these fun games. Martin Luther King Jr. was surveilled and it didn't come with fun games. So for me, I just feel like we are always, as a black person, we're always being surveilled. We're always being watched. People are always going through our shit. So me, at least it came with the family tree now that I have.
You're like, at least I have some information that I can share.
I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm not saying but for me, it was worth that. It was worth that thing.
That's your reasoning, and you had that information to share with your old mom and dad.
Yeah, it's the juice worth the squeeze, and for me, it was.
It was. Yeah. All right. Well, my man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Deeply appreciate it. United Shades of America returns to CNN this Sunday, April 28th, season 4. Don't miss it.